Hey there, meteorologist Kevin Phelps. We're entering that time of year where dew point and humidity are something that are going to be thrown around quite a lot. Obviously, as you get into our spring months, we have that elevated fire risk. And the reason being is we have low relative humidity. At the same time, you also have very low dew points. Let's kind of go into a little bit of an explainer. Here's just an example of what you probably see here every single day. This is just, I think, today a good example of demonstrating the difference between these two. So dew points are in the 30s and 40s, but the relative humidity is at the 80% range, 92% range in this example on the Illinois side of the river. 50 percentile here on the Iowa side of the river. So a quick way to explain this, and I think this is something that we can all probably see. This is just examples. This is not what's happening right now, obviously, but what I'm talking about here, air temperature at 90 degrees with a dew point of 70 yields humidity at 50%. Now, on the right side, you have an air temperature of 70 degrees and a dew point of 70 degrees. That yields a humidity level of 100%. So here's what happened. The moisture did not change. The relative humidity did, and the dew point didn't. So the talking point here is the air didn't get wetter. It just cooled off. That's why dew point is a better reflection of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. I think another way to kind of think about this is a sponge. You have a big sponge. The big sponge would be warm air. A small sponge would be cold air. Now, let's say we put the exact same amount of water in it. The big sponge would be 50% full of water. The little sponge would be 100%. They both have the same amount of water in it, but the relative humidity changes. So that'd be 50% for the big sponge, 100% for the small sponge. So it's same water, different percent full. That's how relative humidity kind of changes. It's not really how much water is in it, it's how full your air mass is. Remember, the air mass kind of changes the amount of water it can hold with temperature. So there's kind of a correlation with that. Another thing I want to talk about is the dew points themselves. Why I think it's a better representation, and kind of a good rule of thumb here is 40-degree temperatures or dew points. That's dry conditions. You would get 2 thumbs up for that. 50s is still pretty comfortable. You start to notice mugginess in the atmosphere when you get to the 60s. We're very sticky when you get to 70 degrees, 75 degrees plus. That's like you're living in Florida. We know how that happens with corn sweat around here. You think about things when we get into the spring months, you have dew forming on not just area roads, but your cars. You got grass in your lawns. The way to think about this is relative humidity is not causing that. It's the temperature that cools to the dew point that creates the condensation. So the dew point tells us when the air is actually full of water. So these are some things just to kind of keep in mind, the difference between dew point and relative humidity. Again, dew point is a better reflection of how it impacts us as humans, how much water the air can actually hold. So hopefully that helps explain the difference between the two. Of course, you'll be seeing this a lot here in the upcoming months as we get into the rest of the spring season.